Aloha.
Aloha. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Long time no talk.
Seriously.
Uh,
Go ahead.
this, this is episode 12, right?
I'm not sure. Let's say 12. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Um, I got a few things to share that I'm working on, and I would like your feedback and thoughts on them. Um, and then I'm sure there's a few things you want to chat about, and we'll just, I told my wife I was going to record a show with you, and she was like, are you prepared? Do you have all these questions? And I was like, I'm just going to talk to my buddy. Like, we do this every day. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is or just jump on. This is the fun about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
Um,
take notes of things that to remind myself of things that I want to talk about, but yeah, it's top of mind.
um, the first thing is I just had this revelation yesterday. So I've been having this big breakfast every morning. Uh,
What time?
10:30, 11
Brunch.
brunch. It's my first of three meals.
Okay.
Um, and it's usually I eat some kimchi. I know you're gonna not like the order, or you might have some opinions on the order of these
Okay.
things, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
feel free to lay it on me.
I will.
So the first thing I'll do actually is I made these cubes of raw liver. I took a raw grass-fed beef liver, beautiful liver, cut it
Mm-hmm.
into these little tiny cubes. I sent you that image, right?
Yeah.
Froze. They're like the size of. They're maybe like the largest pill you've ever taken, but they're swallowable.
Okay.
Froze them, and I take maybe five little chunks of raw beef liver and swallow it down with some raw milk from the that Windy Acres, who actually won the Weston A. Price Award this year for the best organic raw dairy.
Damn.
Um, so that's my first thing, and I usually do that while I'm getting everything else ready.
Mm-hmm.
After the liver and the milk, I'll have some of the Good Culture, a little bit, maybe like a third of a container of that Good Culture cottage cheese,
Mm-hmm.
whole milk and I'll take a few big bites of. Right now, I'm using the Pickled Planet kimchi.
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of my digestive enzymes. Good to get that going.
Okay.
And then typically right after that, uh, I'll have what we in this house call man food, which is essentially ground beef, rice, and some kind of vegetables, all like put into like a big pile of food.
Okay.
It's kind of like a bowl with a couple of
Mm-hmm.
eggs on top.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So I get the beef and the rice, the eggs on top of it. Maybe I'll throw like slice up an avocado on there too. Um, then the milk and the liver, the cottage cheese and the kimchi, and I'm pretty. That's like a decent amount of food.
How do you feel afterwards?
Pretty damn good. I feel good. The
Do you
only
feel
thing, and so
heavy?
the rep. What? Go ahead.
Do you feel heavy?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And I'm going to, as of yesterday, I'm thinking about this. I want to start getting my macros a little more dialed in, just because I think I'm eating too much fat. That's a lot of fat. Uh,
From dairy? From where?
yeah, from the dairy. I don't know, the cottage cheese, the eggs. I have like two, three eggs. Um,
What are your bowel movements look like on the Bristol stool chart?
Perfect.
Then you're fine. That's the only thing you need to know. You will
Oh,
be if you're having too much fat, you're gonna have looser stools.
oh, really?
Absolutely,
Okay. So I shouldn't worry about it.
absolutely not.
Well, that said, I'm also starting a new phase with Zach. Shout out Zach Height, my strength coach. Um, I'm moving away from doing pure calisthenics and hand balancing. So now Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to be doing like some more actual strength work. That's going to be like squatting, deadlifting, uh,
Beautiful.
like moving dumbbells and that kind of thing. So I do want to check in on my macros and make sure I'm getting enough, especially carbs, which I don't typically get a ton of, but
Hmm.
more of that to support the new.
Well, we'll quickly touch on the only, whatever. I'm gonna skip on the order of things. Perhaps, would eat kimchi first. Not that it matters, but you are drinking, so I would prioritize then the fluids as you're doing with the liver. So yeah, fluids, and then, are you doing the cottage cheese before the kimchi, or is it all together?
No, right after. So I'll take like a few big spoons or forks of cottage cheese or of kimchi, and then I'll eat the cottage cheese while I'm kind of making the rest of the food. It's like my appetizer.
I gotcha. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. The one thing I would mostly know to you and others is not to combine protein with starches. So we're talking about the beef and rice. That's the one thing, and I will do it every once in a while. I will have a rice bowl with meat, but I mean, I've heard it a million times. Starches can go with vegetables. Vegetables can go with protein, but not, you do not mix starches with protein. Apparently, it just sucks away the protein.
Yeah.
It's already, I think, the percentages of protein absorption from meat around 50%. Imagine, right? So you're eating, like, let's even say like a 50 grams of protein, meat protein for the meal. You're only absorbing, let's say, about 25. Let's even say that it's 35 grams, and then the rice is taking some of it. I mean, what's left in here? Fortunately, you're drinking milk, you're eating liver, you're eating cottage cheese, you're getting a good amount of protein. And I think, as you also said from Peter Attia, protein is what I focus on most. Protein is king in my book, at least.
Yep.
Uh, it needs to be in balance with, and I think macros. Sometimes people get into macros now more, but macros are very important. And I think the most important to get in balance with digestion, and that is very clear to me based on the bowel movements. They're too soft, and most likely I had too much fat. Um, I don't usually get too hard, but if somebody's getting too hard, they may not be well hydrated. They're not getting enough fats. That's what I've seen in a very simplistic reductionist way.
Okay. And yeah, and I have been prioritizing bowel movements mainly because I'm doing the that 4 month detox, which I'm on month 2 now, and this month is parasites. And the doctor that I'm working with who put me on it said, make sure that you are. So if you're only having one bowel movement a day, you are constipated. She says you
Hmm.
should be having at least two.
Gotcha.
And
In general, or on the detox program?
in general. And she's like,
Right.
especially if you're on the detox program. So I want to make sure that I'm like very, very regular because I don't want to be right now. Phase 2 is parasites. The first one is kind of setting up drainage. And
Is it lymphatic drainage? When you say drainage,
yeah, and man, I should maybe we could put a link to it, but it's Cell Core is the branding is terrible. I don't want to say terrible. The branding looks a little like pharmaceutically almost. It doesn't necessarily look like a very holistic lifestyle based program, but it's really legit. I've heard great things from a few different folks. I did need a practitioner code to even order it, so you have to almost be prescribed it by my chiro's the one who prescribed it to me.
hmm
But I'm actually really liking it so far. And she said the parasite section of it, which is the phase 2. So it's basically I did 30 days of drainage. The next 30 days is parasites. I think the third 30 days is heavy metals.
hmm
Um, there's also a glyphosate detox component. I haven't really gotten past the first couple of phases yet, and I'll look at that once I do. But yes, I've been
Did
prioritizing making sure that I'm not, killing a bunch of parasites inside of me essentially, and then not getting them out.
did your Cairo say to look in your bowel movements for parasites?
Yeah, and I had one I don't really like. She told me she passed a 3 foot long worm
Oh God.
halfway through her first parasite detox. Granted, she'd spent some time in Africa and whatnot,
Hmm.
but I spent months and months in Southeast Asia, like on the Mekong River and stuff like that, where I'm sure I have some shit going on inside of me. I'm not really gonna chopstick around inside of there like she did, but I
I mean,
do.
a 3 foot one. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's you need to chopstick around. That just stands out like a snake.
Dude, that
But
I
have you,
don't
have you
want
been,
that.
have you been checking them out? Yeah, I mean, if you definitely want it out, if that's the case. But so, anyways, they're not visible. That's what you're saying. You're not really looking.
I'm checking it out because I don't know. I'm just,
Get a stick from outside and move it around a bit.
dude. Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's what I would do.
I know you would. I know you would. I'm checking it out, and then I'm also doing a coffee enema again on which this new coffee that I ordered is like the coffee is like brown. It's not green.
Yeah, I mean it's green coffee.
Well, it was unroasted green coffee that I was using before, but
Mm.
damn, those coffee enemas, I got away from them because it's not easy to do them. To be honest with you.
I mean, you're the one who was rocking them, washing the dishes while you do them. I was laying, like I was down on the floor, like having a hard time the whole time, just
Yeah,
just maintaining retaining the fluids in my colon, which
it's
is
hard.
super hard. I don't even
Yeah,
understand how you got up. I mean, there was no getting up in my, the very few times that I've done it. And then nonetheless, it would take me like 10, 15 minutes to even get started.
yeah. I had to.
And
I got to go in there. I'll put on like some Third Eye Blind or some '90s.
great.
I'm like, all right, we're getting down to business in here, baby. It says you're supposed to hold it for 15 minutes. I've made it like between 7 and 11 minutes. Is really 15 minutes is it's just not happening.
But you were holding it back then for longer now.
Maybe I was, and I tried to do things to distract
Yeah.
myself because it's intense. So if I can sit there and like go through something, like maybe read a Twitter thread that I wanted to read that I had saved, or answer an email or something like that. But whew, but I've been doing those, trying to do that once a week while on this detox because I'm fasting on Sundays and Wednesdays, which today's Wednesday. So I ate
Wow.
last night.
Really?
Yeah, just 24, like Tuesday dinner on Tuesday night, and then I'll eat dinner on Wednesday night.
And you got that from Liver King.
Liver King. Yeah, I think there's value in that.
Absolutely.
And I'm drinking the essential amino acids too, just because I'm lifting weights right now.
Mhm.
So I'm
And you
gonna
said you're drinking essential amino acids from where?
Keon.
Keon.
They're good. You
So
don't
I
like them?
hear I have never tried them. You only gotta. I never even tried their products. My wife tried one of their products. She had a bad reaction. We sent it back, and to my dismay, they also charged me for shipping them back. But it's all right. Um.
One other thing that I'm trying right now is I put the Mito Life. Matt Blackburn has his grounding sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of his like Q&A group.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like $15 a month. And so you can go on and ask him questions or whatever. And I was like, hey, so how are you grounding? He lives off grid in Idaho, he gets a lot of snow up there. And I was like, how are you grounding in the wintertime? Because in the summer, I'm wearing my Earth Runners, walking my dog on the trails by our house, and it's fine. But it's not an option right now. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, oh, I'm just grounding when I'm sleeping. And I had a pad on my bed before, but it got lost in the move, or I don't know, my wife took it off or something. So he was having like a 50% off sale on his grounding sheets. So I just have like a grounding fitted sheet on. And dude, this might be placebo, but my body feels so much better. I wouldn't say that my sleep quality has changed, but my body, like mainly my hip and my ankle, feels so much better since I've been doing
Wow,
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So
Um,
how much is that sheet now after the 50% off?
I think it was like $100.
That's nothing.
Yeah, for the king, and then I just ordered a twin to put on my son's crib.
A twin. I mean, you're just gonna kind of crunch it up.
Yeah, I think you just like wrap it around in there. I don't know. I don't know how you're gonna do it.
I gotcha. Okay. What else you got for me?
Um, do you want to talk about goals and practices for next year? Things that you want to work on? Do you have any of those? Do you even do that? You got your 5-year plan. I do too. Um,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The first 5-year plan we both created was in May 2018. Right now we're in December, end of December 2022.
yep.
Um, and the goals that I've set back then for May 2023, a lot of them already happened. There are a few of them that I think will happen by then. I have created another 5-year plan, like a 1-year plan, but yeah, things shifted quite a bit. What I've done recently is twofold. One of the things that I'm excited about is that I got I got this session with this great lady. Her name is Amanda Barnett, and it was a human design and kind of astrology reading session. And I was not into astrology beforehand. I don't really read astrology as is, but the fact is, when I got one of those human design sessions before, which is based on my birth chart, exactly the time that I was, that I was born and the place and such.
The one with
Um,
Dan, you're saying?
yeah, the one with Dan, which was 2 years ago, was like spot on about who am I personality wise, kind of my strengths, my weaknesses, my tendencies, my when I'm not, as they say, kind of my true self, and I get into reactive mode. Anyway, so it's been spot on, and then I got um, an exchange with her, something, and then she gave me a session about 2 weeks ago, and it was very enlightening. Also, hearing from somebody else who's been learning that for a long time, so really shed light. And one of the things that shed light to me is that she looks at life in 12-year cycles based on also astrology, right? So 12 signs, 12-year cycles. And what she said is, since I'm 35, I'm kind of in the last year of this third cycle, and about to start a new cycle. She said it's a good time to make change, to kind of let go of old patterns, to start this new path, this new next 12 years based on 7-year cycles. I'm at the beginning of that 7-year cycle once I turned 35, which was a few months ago. So, I was attracted to work with this woman called Washela Sananda. You met her. She calls herself a galactic shaman. She does not work with medicine, but she, kind of works with more of the woo part of things, and but meditation, breath work, and actually very practical practices, such as kind of looking at in journaling when I'm being reactive, and when I'm being triggered, and kind of really looking into what drives my triggers. And I've been doing that I started working with her less than 2 years ago. Got to that part, was pretty triggered by some of the work that she does, to kind of ignite it, to be able to look at all these triggers at once, to kind of, as she says, transmute the triggers. Um, and get rid of shadows that do not serve us. And anyway, so I stopped working with her then, and I restarted working with her in November, before I had the call in December with Amanda. And it kind of like, I've been drawn to really get past and really recode some patterns that I've had for a while. Perhaps I had them since childhood. Perhaps I had them from a little bit later on. Perhaps I have them from a previous life. I don't know. But anyways, I've been focused on for now, right? So going through her training, it's called Ascension Training. You can find it on washelasananda.com. Washela is spelled like wax, Waxela, Sananda. I'll throw a link to that. So I put on my whiteboard here right next to me, my short-term focus, which will be pretty much until May. It'll be until June. I put it until June 2023. So for the first 6 months, I'm going to focus on and hone my skills on the one-on-one guidance that I've been offering, and really get better at doing that and get more experience. The retreats, in the Men of Integrity retreat that you've attended a few weeks ago, was the fifth one that I've done with my partner Michael Tierno. So just keep getting better at doing those and do more of those. And then I'm introducing a new type of retreat that I'm going to be leading. I'm going to be leading it, and I'm going to get some co-hosts to help me. But it's my program of holistic lifestyle principles. I've told you about it, got your feedback on it. I just created a landing page for it last night, but to launch it very soon. And then our podcast is going to be one of my main focuses especially for the next 6 months. Really getting to a stronger rhythm of recording and releasing shows. It brings a lot of joy to me and a bunch of our a bunch of the audience, a bunch of people that are audience have been giving us good feedback of keeping that going. So I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'm going to launch my own podcast, do this ascension training, and I'm doing another course that will take me like a few months. So kind of for the short term, I got a good amount of stuff. I don't have perhaps I have some, of the things about, okay, 5 years down the line, like where am I going to be in 2028? I do have a few things. You know, Conducting bigger retreats, focus on holistic lifestyle principles, some work with expanded states and such. I'm kind of coming and leaving it open ended. I'm just focusing now on smaller chunks. Um, so for the next 6 months, I have this, and then I'm focusing really on reestablishing my daily routine. Since my son is only a few months old, my daily routine was kind of thrown off after he came into the world. In you know Getting him on a schedule and getting us as a family past that few months, which are a bit more hectic and chaotic. So just honing in on my daily routine again, making sure that I'm waking up at a certain time to do my morning routine, meditation, breath work, movement, um, my training routine. I'm mainly doing knees over toes training at the moment. So yeah, that's I have this is my goals pretty much for 2023. I have my big projects, my work, keeping the daily routine, and just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, getting better at um, maintaining, getting better at being a good being a loving and present father and husband and son and friend. That's it. And then just focusing now a bit more short term. Yeah, and I think those things also, what I've been describing before about the 6 months, will lead later on, whatever it leads, just being in more flow in that way. I do have some, I'll just share quickly. 5 years down the line, I have my eyes on conducting way larger retreats of at least 100 people at a time. For now, I conduct retreats of, the last one I think was
10
uh,
people.
10 people. So between 10 to 15 is my focus for now, at least for the next year. Very intimate. I get to connect with people, which brings me a lot of joy. Connect with them really one on one. Those moments of presence, those moments of just witnessing people transform, and having that connection, having that really deep intimate connection right there in person is what brings me joy. I thought about doing online courses, but I'm kind of staying away from it. I do lead, as you know, monthly community for the Men of Integrity community sessions. Tomorrow I'm leading another one, and to close out 2022. But that's I'm kind of keeping that as is. I may add a little bit more with other groups, but for now, I enjoy really the face to face interactions. So that's what I got for planning goals and such.
That's great. Dude, the fact that you, and I do this too. It's like I'd rather have a practice rather than saying, "Hey, I want to back squat 400 pounds" or have some really tangible goal number. It's more like, "Hey, I want to squat 3 times a week," because the number can be a little fleeting, and I think there's more value in committing to a practice and seeing where that practice takes you than saying, because I don't know if you're squatting twice a week and you're on your program and you're doing great. Maybe you don't hit your 400-pound goal or wherever it is, and you're only at 385. But there's a lot of victory and accomplishment in showing up every day and doing the work.
I agree, and I think we can get attached to these goals and numbers, and they really don't have much meaning. What I care about more is that I'm squatting for the sake of one, joy, two, maintaining good physical health, strength, mobility, being disciplined, and if gains come, they come, and it's a blessing, whatever. And what is the difference if I'm squatting 2 times my body weight, if it's 1.5 times, if it's 2.5 times? It doesn't really matter. If I'm in good posture, if I'm in good form, and it feels good, and I'm mostly pain free, and I'm not getting injured and such, especially as we age, I'm not competing with anybody. But yeah, I think it's good perhaps sometimes for somebody who's beginning, especially when they begin to kind of like say like, okay, I know I'm going to be healthier at this weight. So I'm getting, and that's kind of like an initial goal. And once they get in the routine, they know like, okay, it's important to eat healthy, do my exercise, sleep, hydrate, nutrition, all that. And then, I mean, the body will do what the body wants to do in terms of equilibrium. That weight may not be the weight that they were thinking about, whatever number that is. It may be 10 pounds more, it may be 10 pounds less.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's great. Um, you're spot on with that. I think, yeah, for me, I have a handful of habits and things that I want to work on. And like I said, I have the 5 year plan that we did at the MOI, the Men of Integrity Retreat. I use slightly different categories. I have a relationship category, health, wealth, joy, um, growth, and then stuff for my home. Um, but one of my big focuses this year, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, is focusing on things that I can get involved with, spend time doing just for the sake of doing them because they're a good practice. And I'm putting them in my joy category. And a couple of those are I'm signed up for a local ceramics class.
Right.
It's like a skill I can go to once a week, something I can do. It's creative, it's an energetic outlet, and it doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah,
I can go make clay teacups and shit for a couple hours once a week. Um,
that's cool.
Another one is start to playing guitar again. I'm going to be hiring a teacher, even though I have a decent level of proficiency. With me hiring a coach, paying for it, having some accountability and expectations is super helpful for staying on it. Um, so that's another one. Another thing that I thought of about a week ago that I for some reason this keeps coming back is coffee. I'm
Hmm.
not like a coffee addict. I have one small cup of coffee, usually half calf, in the morning. But I have this weird little psychological dependency on it, which pisses me off. So, and you can give me your 2 cents on this. I know you are not a coffee advocate, so it's probably going to be easy for you, but I'm thinking of switching to tea um, for next year, for the year of 2023. And I've been watching Jesse, our friend Jesse Jacobs at Samovar. I've been watching his Intro to Tea series. I think it's a handful of videos.
Nice.
They're like 10 minutes. And I have a big Samovar cart that I was going to get ready to. I think a big part of the coffee in the morning is the ritual. And I grind the beans, I get the water to the temperature, whether I'm doing a French press or a Chemex or making something
Yeah,
fancy. I think tea has a cool ritual associated with it. And it's nice early in the morning, sit down with a warm beverage. I can do some reading, some journaling after I do some meditation, breath work, and movement.
hmm,
Um, but I do really like having a little bit of caffeine from coffee. But I don't know. Maybe I could do caffeinated tea. I was thinking I'm going to do matcha and kind of mix it up throughout the week. Matcha with the L-theanine seems to be really effective. I don't know. What do you think
yeah.
about
Our,
that?
our friend Mike Van Epps has switched to matcha for a while. I'm not sure if he's still doing it. I actually ordered him matcha from Samovar Tea, which has very organic, fresh tea, and he loved it. And yeah, I think it's a lot of it is a ritual. It's a warm drink, kind of like sets the day, sets the tone. Um, yeah, and you enjoy the kick from caffeine. Go for it. I think it's. I wouldn't necessarily commit to a whole year. Perhaps you commit just to January, and you see how 30 days work for you. Then you can see from that point what do you decide. I'm now more about the shorter, especially for new things, short-term commitments, but sticking to those commitments rather than like, oh, I'm setting like a year. Like that's just a long time for some things. I think I like the more intentional things. Like in a year, I want to be there. Like perhaps for somebody, I don't want to be, if especially if they're drinking a few cups of coffee, I don't want to be coffee dependent anymore. So they kind of go through whatever they need to go through, and say by January 24, 2024, I only drink 1 cup max per day or per week or whatever that might be for them. If I see those plans more, or they're working in a new field. Like I am working, perhaps with somebody in January 2024, January 2028. Um, I'm working in whatever. I'm just gonna say I'm a Reiki master. If they have their eyes on it. I'm just thinking about one woman that I know who's been taking, who's very talented for it. She's been called to do it. She's been in medical device sales for a long time, and she took a course, over the weekend. So just kind of setting that, and then and also I think we've been sometimes setting pretty high goals, like, oh, I want to be able to go to like 2 hunting trips and 2 camping trips and 4 workshops and all of this. Just setting more like where do I want to be rather than how many things that I want to do, and then kind of paving the way. Like, oh, 1 year I'll do 1 hunting trip, in 4 workshops. Another year, maybe I'll do 3 hunting trips in one workshop, and kind of paving the way in that way. But knowing that perhaps one wants to get into hunting for all kinds of reasons, change the profession to something, whatever that might be. And I think I see more value in doing this, and then just doing shorter sprints, 100 days. It's what we've been doing in the Men of Integrity community, and it's been working pretty well.
Okay. And speaking of hunting trips, I did go hunting 2 days ago and breasted out 5 wood ducks, 2 mallards. So my
Nice.
family and I will be eating some duck
It's
here for the
awesome.
next little chunk of time. But yeah, it was really, really fun. Duck hunting is one of the most uncomfortable. I mean, you're literally sitting in the freezing cold, kind of in the fog, in this wet environment, just
How
waiting for
long? How
birds.
long were you hunting for?
We got out there before sunrise. You don't shoot until sunrise,
Mm-hmm.
and got out there around 5:30. I got up around 3:45,
Wow.
and then we got back in around 10.
Wow. So you were cold for a while.
You're cold for a while, but it's like that cold just to your core, and you're sitting still. You're kind of quiet. But I was with one of my really good friends, hanging out, shooting the shit, and his
Mm-hmm.
dad. Um, it's just fun. And then you come in, you got the birds. Uh, you know, kind of do the preparing of them, and now I have some awesome duck meat to feed my
So
wife and
I,
son.
I love duck meat. I love the flavor and the fattiness so much. I mean, that's. I was just thinking earlier in the car. I don't know why. I was listening to an audiobook, and it talked about how healthy, to our bodies, to our emotional state, all that is classical music. And I was thinking, like, if I had to choose one, and I'm just going to say for a year, for now, right, rather than like your whole life, one genre, like what would it be?
Yes.
And yeah, so I mean, to me, yeah, I mean, I was thinking, like, would it be? I'd probably choose jazz because I listen to jazz 90% of the time. But I love classical music, and now that I know how beneficial it is. I mean, they're both very beneficial. I mean, classical music has been shown to do miracles in all kinds of ways. Just like, for cows, for in water experiments, all kinds of stuff. Um, but yeah, just it's so. Anyways, I'll ask you that question. If you have to choose one genre of music for 2023, what would it be?
I just listen to jazz because you do. I'm used to like doing productive things with you listening to jazz.
Hmm.
I, my Spotify is 90% podcasts.
Okay.
I don't listen to that much music for some reason, and I love it. But if I listen to music, it's like I'm like consciously listening to music, and it's usually something like folky, bluegrassy, kind of, like Camp. If you know the band Camp.
So I'll switch this question to, if you had to choose one show, one podcast show, you're going to listen to in 2023.
How dare you?
I know it's not even.
So my one of my things is I'm
Mhm.
really focusing on balancing health, wealth, and joy. My health life, my career, and like financial life, and my joy. So I
Mhm.
try to balance my content intake with those 3 things. So for health, I really love listening to Peter Attia and Luke Story. I also listen to Matt Blackburn's podcast and some other ones too. Um, I couldn't pick because Peter Attia is so like a little more data driven and very medical, and he's focused on longevity. Um, and Luke's a little more wooey, but also has like some really awesome health content that really resonates with me. And then there's like certain business podcasts I like to listen to, and then podcasts that I listen to that are purely for joy, whether that's Rogan or a hunting podcast or something like that. So the answer I have for you is that I refuse to pick one podcast. I try to listen to 6 a week, 2 from each of those 3 categories.
Wow. Okay, so let me ask you this question though, a bit unrelated, but are you still into getting into a writing habit for 2023?
Yeah, I am. I am. Um,
Hesitant, yeah.
I am. I do want to. I think writing makes you smarter and it helps you get more clear on your thoughts. I
Hmm.
think it makes you a better thinker. So I don't know that I ever want to be a published journalist, but um, I like the idea of, you know, having to get clear on your thinking, and I think writing forces you to do that. So I do want to be creating content next year.
Hmm.
This podcast is part of it, and then also writing, whether that's with Substack or something long form, short form, something like that. So I've been spending the last couple of weeks thinking about that, and oddly enough, writing about it. And we'll be honing in and making some sort of commitment to you within the next couple of days here.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to segue to another topic that I wanted to touch on, and that's it's kind of more of a story, but I think it's going to touch on something related to relationships that I think is important. And one thing I think, if you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've taken from the Men of Integrity retreat was to really focus on your wife in terms of the family relationships rather than your wife and your son. Like, yes, of course you really care about your son as well, but especially at this stage to put more emphasis on looking at your wife's needs and really attending to her needs and making sure that she's in a really good place, and knowing that that's going to carry over to your son because she's by far the main caretaker for him. And you already implemented, I mean, tell the audience like your weekly, what do you call it, check-in. So to
Yeah, we do.
touch a little bit about your really, how you've been prioritizing a relationship and putting work into a relationship with your wife, and you've only been married for a bit of a year, so which I think is very impressive, how much work and how much intention you've been putting into this relationship.
Yeah, so I got a credit to Michael Tierno for 90% of my thinking around all this stuff and the resources he's led me to, because he's an absolute. I feel like it should be a requirement to have a 2 hour call with Michael Tierno before getting into or continuing any relationship, because he's just so well thought out and has such great information on this. Um, so my wife and I do have a weekly check-in where we do sit down on Monday mornings for an hour. It's changed. We just originally did it in the evenings. That didn't work because we were both tired and we didn't want to talk about logistics at 7 o'clock at night. And then Sunday mornings we were always doing stuff with the family or whatever. Didn't stick. So now Monday mornings we talk for an hour, just getting on the same page. Hey, here's what we're gonna have for dinners this week. Hey, we need to book a hotel and a flight to San Diego for this wedding. Just like getting really on the same page. And then
Hmm.
we also have a period at the end of that little chat, where we can, air our grievances if there's anything that's been. And this is something I took from Tim Ferriss and Ramit Sethi is, just say like, hey, this has been going on. I wish we could do better at this. It's something like a little more just on the relationship itself.
Hmm.
And that's been really helpful, because most of the issues I think that arise in relationships are just because we haven't communicated. We're not on the same page. Even with the Men of Integrity retreat, she thought I was going to be there from Friday to Sunday. And just because I'm, going away for the weekend, but I was actually not going to be home until Tuesday night. And that could have totally been solved 2 months earlier if I had been upfront, but she found out about it like 3 days before I left.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's just an example of communication, staying on the same page. And I think just having that block of time where we can communicate is really important. And you can, just to be on the same page. And it's also nice for us to sit down and do that. And then we have 2 nights a week, we play gin together. I think it's gin rummy. I forget which version it is, but it's the game we play. And we just play cards for, after we put my son down, and, just hang out and kind of connect and chat and whatever. Um, and that's been really great. And like you mentioned, when I left the retreat, this had been something that I was sort of doing in a lot of ways, but it was a realization that I had during some of the ceremony work and talking to you, talking to Mike and some of the other men at the retreat, was that my wife is giving all of herself to raising our son. Um, and I am in a lot of ways too, but it's really important for me to spend a lot of energy taking care of my wife, filling her up, making sure that she is cared for, because she is in this, such a physically, emotionally, giving space right now. Um, and as we know, the kind of dichotomy between the masculine and feminine, or the polarity, uh, as she is more energized and fully in herself, that will also energize me. That way, all three of us can thrive and be doing the best that we can. So, yes, that was my main takeaway from the retreat, is that, because I think when you have a child, it's like, hey, we need to focus on the kid, and together we're both doing this, and we do. And obviously, I love my son more than anything in the world. Um, but I do need to consciously prioritize being a husband, and being a partner, and a supporter, and energetically filling up my wife.
That's beautiful. So I wanted to quickly just give an anecdote here that recently you don't get into many NFT projects, but you got into an NFT project. You minted it. You got into the whitelist, to the allow list, whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah. Early on.
Early on, you got into the allow list. You minted the project. It's a great project by strong team. Let's put it this way. And you
Wait, hold
scored.
on. Before you go into this, I don't know if my wife listens to this. I don't know if I want her to know what I asked you just yet.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, very big picture, right? So in
Be as
general,
cryptic as you can.
yeah, well, big picture that I got into a good amount of NFT projects, and some of them obviously are more successful than others. Maybe like 10% of them. I've made some better choices, some not, and I talked to you about this too. It's a lot of times we put our effort into a bunch of things, and some of them are more fruitful.
Mhm.
And you scored a good one, right? And there's some good offers on it, and then right, so then it comes a time where you're in a dilemma of like, am I going to cash out of this project, and when, and what are we going, what are we going to do as a family unit with the funds? Because we're together, we're in this together as parents, we're in this together in general, right? I mean, maybe this not works for all couples, definitely not, but I think in our case, there's once again, getting back to the communication and supporting one another, and sharing a lot of things with our women significant partners there. And so yeah, so it kind of gets back to, and this is part of the advice that I want to give you, like getting that conversation perhaps on that Monday morning and being like, hey Han, just so you know, like, I minted this NFT, and it's right now this is what it's worth, this is what I've been doing, some research, I've been getting some advice, here are some options for us, here are some options for us, and I want us to make a collective decision that we're both happy about long term, about how we're going to spend it, whether there's some gym equipment, whatever it is, renovations, all that kind of stuff, right? So coming to, or perhaps really saying like, hey, let's just, we came with the intention of with this project of going in for like 3 to 5 years. Let's just keep it. Let's just keep it, and we didn't spend that much money on it, and let's just go with it, or move it to another project for a long term. And I think that the main key here is being in communication, coming to an agreement, showing that we're making this decision together. It's not that one is making the decision just because he was the one to click the button, or even bring that income. Because as you said, and in a lot of instances, our women, the mothers, are the ones who are doing a good amount of work, raising our children. That's harder work a lot of times than going and doing other work that creates income, and then thinking a bunch of times that we are going to make the decisions on the income without their support. I think is a could be a bad decision. So that's the only thing I wanted to kind of touch on. Really coming to very clear communication. Like, here are the things that you have in mind. Here are the things that I have in mind. Like, let's make sure that we're making the right decision long term for our family.
Yeah, that is a really good point. And just because I was the one that, happened to listen to a handful of podcasts and decide, oh, I'm gonna, get into this project. It was a relatively small amount of money, and I happened to get really lucky on the at the end. And it's just been one of these things. I'm thinking, I'm like, hey, should I, what should we
I
do with
know.
this?
I didn't. You told me about it. I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah,
And probably I wouldn't get that much, out of it, because in general the project is doing well, but it depends a lot of times. If anybody knows anything about NFTs or art, it's just like the rarity, how rare the piece might be. And when it's rare, it could be worth sometimes like 10 times the investment. Perhaps
Yeah.
somebody is putting $300, it's 3,000, or sometimes a bit more than that, depending on the time of the markets, bull market, bear market, all kinds of other things. But anyway, so that's go on.
Yeah. So it's really, she was as instrumental in I mean, all of these things happening as I am. We recently put a new, uh, in the real estate investment business, and we have a really good deal that we're in contract in right now. And yeah, I was the one who did the underwriting and made the calls and really put it together. But she's you know running my so much of the life of our family and myself that gives me the bandwidth to do those things. Um, if she wasn't there taking care of my son and doing all the planning and everything that goes on basically outside of business, there's no way I would have the ability to perform in those areas. So yeah, just because like you said, I'm clicking the button.
Mhm.
It's I mean, and legally, I guess it's whatever. So it's all going into one pot. So she should. That's a good point. Yeah, I do need to have that discussion. She's more talking about like, oh, what are you going to do with that super valuable picture that you have? And we know all have our ideas with the ways that could be.
So yeah, I just wanted to make that recommendation on the mic, that think through, and I gave you some of my 2 cents on what you could do, and but put those options on the table, and come to a collective decision of like how everybody will be benefiting from the decision, and of course taking risk. So there's risk involved in taking a decision to cash out. There's a risk involved in keeping um, an investment. That's just the way with investing. Within a lot of things in life, there's a risk involved. So
I'm
good point.
actually adding right now. We have a Trello board. This is going to sound so lame, but we have a Trello board for our family. Just little things that we're keeping organized and all that. Um, and one of the things is our weekly meeting. So I'll add that as a note to go over the NFT on Monday.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, my wife has been texting me that she could use my help next door, um, dinner and such. So I'm gonna sign off. I'm very excited for 2023. Lots of beautiful things coming up. We're going to be doing this podcast more regularly. Yeah, that's all I
Yeah,
got for now.
let's and we'll you and I offline we can come up with our cadence and our time and sort of like what we talked about yesterday. But yeah, we're making the commitment to commit.
Absolutely. All right,
Perfect.
everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Doc.
Peace.